In this video, we'll be talking specifically about additional parameters on assignments. If you're not sure how to get here or if you haven't assigned pages before, we'd recommend that you watch our video on assigning activities first. This is just a very detailed breakdown of all of the different parameters you're able to add to assignments. Starting at the top, modified point value. Modifying the point value will allow us to set a point value for a page or pages that we're assigning. For example, if I wanted each of these pages I'm assigning to be worth 5 points, I'd simply put in 5. Now, no matter the number of questions on the page, any points graded activities will be worth 5 total points. I can also choose to assign the activity as credit, no credit only. If I choose this option, students will receive 100% for completing the activity or 0% for not completing the activity. It's basically a participation grade for this group of activities. The next option is the submission limit. The submission limit will limit the amount of times students can attempt the activity. If I choose apply submission limit, I can set that number to anything I'd like. I can give them 5, 6, or 2 attempts. Just making a note that if you have a soft deadline in place or a hard deadline, this submission limit will only apply prior to the due date. If you're using a soft deadline, students will not be able to resubmit or submit the activity again after that deadline has passed. Next is the prevent leaving option. With this option checked, we're preventing students from opening another browser window, another tab, basically leaving the activity once they've started. We can also set a number of warnings. Students will by default receive 1 warning, and we can't set it any lower than that. After that first warning, if they leave the page again, the work will be automatically submitted to the teacher. I can make that more than 1 warning. So if I wanted to do a 3 strikes, you're out, I could set the number of warnings to 2. That way on the 3rd time they leave the page, the work would be automatically submitted to the teacher. The next 2 options are only for speaking activities. We have the single record, which works as a submission limit for recording activities. With the single record, students can only record each audio 1 time. The next option is automated recording. Automated recording removes the control from the students of both the play and record buttons on any recording activities. There are 2 main types of recording activities, listening and speaking, as well as a more presentational speaking or a reading then speaking activity. If the activity is the first type, listening and speaking, with automated recording checked, the first audio will play a few seconds after the student starts the activity. Once that audio finishes, the recording will automatically start. The students won't be able to click play or record on the page. Once they click stop on their recording, the next audio will play, then automatically record, and so on down the page. If the activity is the second type, either reading and then speaking or a presentational speaking activity, the page will wait 1 minute or 60 seconds after the student begins the page to start recording automatically. Once the student finishes that recording, the program will wait another 30 seconds before continuing, and so on down the page. You can also choose to hide You can also choose to hide the page before the students begin. If you choose this option, the students will see a message that once they begin, the system will automatically record, so on and so forth. So that's a good option if you want them to acknowledge that before beginning. The next option is the timer. This can be applied to any page. The maximum timer will give the students a time limit on the page. So they'll see a countdown at the top and they will see when they're approaching 0 minutes, and then the work will be automatically submitted once that timer expires. A minimum timer We'll set a minimum amount of time that students have to stay on the page before the submit button will appear. The next option is another one that's just for speaking activities. This is a recording timer. So again, going back to the automated recording, there are the two types of recording activities. If it's a listening and speaking activity, the students would have this amount of time for each recording on the page. So you're setting that timer not for the entire page, but for each audio that the students are recording. If I set it to 20 or 30 seconds, once that time has been reached while the student is speaking, the stop button will be pressed. It's going to cut the student off at that time. The next option is to require a set percentage. Clicking this will require that the students reach a specific score on the assignment before it's marked as completed. This is best used with automatically graded assignments, but can be used with teacher graded as well. I can set the score as low as 60 or as high as 100%, and the students will be prompted to attempt the activity until they reach that set score. So even if you had a submission limit applied, they would be able to complete the assignment repeatedly until they have that score that you've set. Another option is clear on retake. Clear on retake will clear the assignment each time the students attempt it. So if you are using that require set percentage or you have multiple attempts allowed, this will make the students do the entire assignment each time they attempt it. So rather than seeing their previous responses, they'll see a blank page as if they have not completed the assignment. Finally, we can choose when to allow our students to review their answers and whether or not we want to show the correct answers for those questions they got wrong. By default, this is going to be set to immediately after submission, so students would immediately see which questions they got right and which questions they got wrong. If they have multiple submissions left, they would be able to change their answers and resubmit. If I choose to show the correct answers, this is going to show the answer key at the time that I've allowed students to review. While that answer key is showing, students will not be able to edit their answers. They will not be able to submit the assignment. And that's just to keep them from copying the answer key and submitting it as their homework. I can also change when they're allowed to review. So if I change that to after the due date has passed, then students won't see what they got right or what they got wrong or those correct answers until the due date for this assignment has passed. You can also choose teacher controlled not yet. This will give you manual control over when students can and cannot review. You can open it up by editing the assignment from the assignment calendar and then choosing teacher controlled review now. With teacher controlled review now, so once you manually open that review, students will not be able to adjust their scores or make any changes to their activity or submit, whether or not the correct answers are showing. Hopefully, this explains some of the different options we have for formalizing activities and assessments. But if you do have any questions about assigning work or the parameters you can set, don't hesitate to reach out to us using any of the options from the help icon within your account.